Okay, let's get back into this. Oh yeah, fun fact: if you're hearing that music and watching that waveform in the background, they do not sync up, like not at all. But yeah, so I'm gonna continue this little project of mine, and today's focus is gonna be on these two bars. I don't know, I guess you'd call it the HP bar, and then the boss bar. I just want to animate them the same way I did with Let me just show you real quick. The same way I animated. Oh, I guess I was working on it, then I kind of shut it off like over the weekend, so I'm not sure exactly where I left off, but it seems to be good enough. So we just pick up from there. But yeah, like I was saying in the description here, I might cut down these streams. Like I'm trying a different schedule today. I'm gonna go do other things with my life, so I'm probably not gonna spend too much time on this one. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Over the weekend, I already organized some of these assets. I didn't do it all, but right now I feel like it's just important to get these two bars animated. And once I do that, I'll go over the little, I don't know, the minor details, like lining up the center of these borders, or I don't know, doing flashy effects, like maybe the text slides in or something like that. But for now, I think it's in a really good state. So, what was I gonna say? I don't know. Next stream, I might just focus on the music. That little track you heard in the beginning was just some random crap I threw together, like I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I don't know. It kind of reminded me. It's really fun to make music. I kind of miss it already. It's been like a couple weeks now since I've done a music stream. I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I just got carried away with this thing, and I don't know. It just drags on and on, but I don't know. I mean, I I like doing what I'm doing. Okay, let me put it that way. Like I enjoy what I'm doing here, but I don't know. I need variety, but well, I guess the reason I was so burnt out on this, to be honest, is just because like how technical it is too. I mean, sure, it looks like I'm just sliding that little cube up and down. It's like, oh, big deal, right? But it took me 2 hours to figure out how to even animate this bar going up and down like that, and yeah, I don't even want to get into this stuff. As you can see down here, it's all I don't know. It's just a lot of work, a lot of technical work, and kind of it gets kind of boring to be honest. But anyway, I'm not gonna complain too much about this. I'm just gonna do what I always do. And just in case you're wondering, I actually got permission by this guy now, so I'm not just stealing his narrations. That SCP. Okay, it's not the SCP guys. The Exploring series. Okay, like he does a lot of these, narration videos where he just explains stuff. So I guess the SCP universe really caught his eye, or it kind of made his channel blow up. So, but yeah, I got permission from him, so I'm gonna be listening to his narrations. I'm just gonna leave a link in there on the tech on the in the chat. So I'm just gonna zone out, listen to his narrations and stuff as I work away at this. And like I always say, if you have any questions, feel free to bug me. Feel free to ask. But yeah, usually I would try. Not usually. I mean, I never like talk on these streams, but I feel like I should try to explain what I'm doing as I go about it. But honestly, I feel like I just work best if I just focus and do the work. Also, I don't think anyone's in the chat yet, so I mean, it's no real point in me talking and talking. And the final thing, I know this dragged on like way too long, but the final thing I want to say is I do plan on doing a video series, or just one video of how I built all of this, and how you could do it yourself at home if you have Blender. I mean, I don't know. It's just a really fun project I've been working on. So I feel like maybe some people might be interested in knowing how this, like how stuff like this work. It doesn't look too exciting, but like turn on the shaders and it looks great. But yeah, I might just do a little video on how I made these, and go into detail about. I don't know. Just looking at this makes me think of all the work I put into it. So I'll cover that later. I'm just gonna shut up now. Let's listen to some spooky stories, and yeah, we just get to it.
SCP-3515 Unearth. Claustrophobia is a common enough fear, as plenty of people are uncomfortable or uneasy with tight spaces, especially when it comes to caves or other underground areas. Being buried alive, however, is an even more common fear, even among those who aren't normally claustrophobic. Under the earth, with no room to move and no air to breathe, left only with your own thoughts as you inch closer to the inevitability of death, is an understandable enough fear. SCP-3515 is, in a sense, about the prospect of being buried alive, but somehow it ends up being even worse than that. SCP-3515 is a charcoal drawing on paper, currently fitted in a wooden frame. The drawing depicts a barren landscape with a large knotted willow tree in the foreground, at the crest of a hill of bare earth. The artist and date of creation are unknown. Spending more than an hour close to the drawing causes an individual to experience low-volume auditory hallucinations, described as the sound of slow, steady digging. Subjects have most commonly matched these sounds to that of manual digging with a metal shovel in heavy clay soil. If an affected individual leaves the close proximity of the drawing, the hallucinations cease. If, however, an individual sleeps while in proximity to the drawing, they will spontaneously dematerialize, along with their clothing and anything else attached to them. To test this out, a D-Class was fitted with a GPS tracking device, a head-mounted camera and microphone, and a transmitter, and was told to sleep near the drawing. The D-Class asks what exactly they're testing for, but the researcher says that he can't tell him that. The D-Class lies down and begins to fall asleep. After 20 minutes of sleep, he dematerializes, and the signals from his equipment continue to be received. The view from his camera changes to what appears to be another room, and it seems that the D-Class is still asleep. The GPS signal shows his location to be a suburban house, so the closest MTF is sent in to investigate. The house shows signs of recent habitation, but the current residents are absent. Footage from one of the upstairs bedrooms resembles the room shown on the D-Class's camera feed, but the D-Class is not present. After 3 hours, with nothing changing, the researcher wakes up the D-Class by talking into his earpiece. The D-Class wakes up a little groggy, but otherwise fine, and looks around to show a typical bedroom with a bookcase and desk. The room's dimensions and paint color match what the MTF saw, but the furnishings are different, and the MTF are not visible. The D-Class recognizes the location, however, claiming that it's his childhood bedroom in his parents' house. He says that there's no one there with him, and asks how he got here. The researcher tells him that they're hoping he can help figure that out. The D-Class exits the bedroom and walks along a hallway, calling out to see if anyone else is there. There's no response, as he heads downstairs and looks at some photographs framed on the wall. He remarks on even the photographs being the same, and it's noted that the photos are consistent with known information about his family, as well as the GPS location matching his childhood residence. He calls out to his family, but they're not there, and in fact, the current owners of the property are not related to the D-Class at all. They are temporarily detained by the Foundation and later amnesticized. The D-Class remarks that everything is just as it was when he was growing up, pointing out that he fell off that sofa when he was 7, spraining his wrist. There's one painting on the wall, however, that he doesn't remember, resembling SCP-3515. He doesn't know if there was a different picture in its place growing up, but he knows that he's never seen this picture before today. He approaches it closer, and although it doesn't look any different from before, he remarks that the digging sound seems to be a bit louder now. He proceeds to pull open the curtains on a window, but the window is obscured, as if it was covered in mud. He then goes to the front door and unlocks it, but it's stuck in place and he cannot open it. He applies more force, and suddenly the door pops open, causing him to fall to the ground. He begins to swear as he looks out the doorway, and the camera footage shows that the doorway is filled with dark soil, some of it spilling into the house. He moves towards it and begins pulling at the dirt, with clumps of it falling to the floor and more dirt falling into the gaps from above. He moves rapidly through the rest of the home, opening curtains and windows, showing that the entire house seems to be surrounded by earth. He begins to panic and swear more, eventually taking a wooden chair and throwing it at a window, causing it to break and earth to spill in. He sits down and breathes heavily, cursing the foundation for burying him. Shortly afterward, he removed his camera and headset, moving around the house for several hours. Eventually, he put the equipment back on, telling the researcher to shut up and get him out of here. He's looked everywhere he can, and the whole place is covered in dirt. He's trying to stay calm, but they have to get him out. He's eaten a little, as there's some stuff in the kitchen, and the taps still run, but he hasn't slept yet. He asks the researcher how long he has until he runs out of air, but the researcher says that since the house is pretty large, he probably has enough for weeks. He tells the D class to get some sleep, and they'll come up with a new plan to get him out tomorrow. The D class doesn't want to sleep here, but the researcher suggests that it might cause the effect that brought him here to reverse. The D class gives it a try, but after several hours of sleep, nothing changes. The following day, the team guided the D class through the house to confirm that it was fully surrounded by soil, with various samples collected. All of the communication devices in the house were also tested, such as the phone and computer, but none of it was connected. They eventually settled on having the D-class tunnel upwards from the house, using a garden shovel from the basement. After spending the rest of the day gathering supplies from the house and setting up a makeshift ventilation system, the D-class commenced digging the following day. The researcher guides him through the process as he starts the tunnel at an attic window, tossing the dirt down the stairs. The angle is awkward, but doing it this way gives an arch shape to the tunnel that will be more stable. He makes slow but steady progress, his attitude fluctuating between anger, withdrawal, and a strong desire for conversation. He finishes the day by watching the television for a few hours, which showed only pre-recorded programs, and then slept. On the second day, the tunnel has progressed to the point where he suddenly strikes something hard while digging. He begins pulling at the dirt with his hands, revealing a white shape. More digging reveals it to be a long bone. The researcher says that bones can be expected when digging underground, but the D-class responds that it's not right, because he's been digging for 2 days now, and he hasn't found a single living thing. No worms, no bugs, no moles, nothing. So why is there a bone? The researcher calms him down and tells him to take a closer look at it. He pulls more dirt away, revealing the bones of a human foot, causing him to swear and scramble back into the house. He abandons his headset for some time, and after 2 hours, he moves back into the tunnel with the shovel, still without his headset. 45 minutes later, he comes back and picks it up, telling the researcher that he'll show him something. Back in the tunnel, he reveals that he had dug a separate branch, and 2 more bones are visible, appearing similar to a human radius and ulna. He then uses his shovel to move some more dirt, revealing a series of smaller human bones. He asks the researcher what the hell is going on here, but the researcher can't answer, telling him that they're doing their best. This only serves to further anger the D-Class, who begins wildly digging and revealing more human bones, partially decomposed. There's a sound of dry retching, and he retreats from the tunnel, breathing hard for several minutes. He softly begs the researcher to do more to help, and the researcher responds that they have his GPS signal, and they're going to have a team start digging down towards him. In the meantime, he needs to keep digging upwards, as they can use his camera footage to see how close they are to finding him. The D-Class isn't going to dig anymore today, however, and spends the rest of the day eating and sitting near the television. Early the following morning, as he begins to climb into the tunnel, the lights in the house lose power. He panics again, but rather than going back down to the living room, he insists that he's getting out of this house. He begins digging rapidly, rarely speaking to the researcher. On several occasions, he unearths bones or decomposing human remains, but he either covers them in loose dirt or ignores them completely. The team monitoring the situation estimates that the remains comprise at least 12 individuals so far. After several hours of this, he strikes something hard again with his shovel. The researcher insists that he uncover it, as it may be something they can use to help get him out. He digs it out, revealing it to be a decomposing human torso with several exposed ribs, along with a head with some flesh and hair remaining. The D-Class complains of the stench and asks how could this possibly help, with the researcher explaining that perhaps they can work out how they were buried and how close he is to the surface. He asks the D-Class to pick up the head, but he doesn't want to, swearing at the researcher and smashing the bones with his shovel. He then continues to dig erratically, increasing the incline of the tunnel. At one point, he exposes the bones of an arm, but only hacks at it with a shovel and covers it with earth as he continues to dig. After several hours, the shovel again strikes something hard, and after further digging, it's revealed to be a long tree root. He then stops digging and stares at it, with the researcher remarking that it's a good sign. This means he's getting near to the surface, and if he gets a bit closer, they can work out how near. The D-Class, however, only whispers that he doesn't like it, and it's not right. The researcher contacts the digging team, who tell him that they've dug 20 meters down and haven't found any human remains, and there's also no large trees in the vicinity of the house. The D-Class continues to dig for several more hours without food or water, exposing several more tree roots and bones. He continues, avoiding all contact with the tree roots, and after 14 hours of activity, the researcher tries to get him to stop for rest and food. The D-Class, however, only insists that he needs to get out, and he doesn't want to sleep. He does take a break, however, and admits that he's pretty tired. The researcher makes some small talk with him, asking what meal he'd like when he gets back. He says that he'd like a burger with cheese from McDonald's, and the researcher says that they can arrange that. He returns to the tunnel entrance for some food and water, but doesn't want to go back downstairs to sleep. He's been down here for 4 days now, and he apologizes to the researcher for yelling at him. He then says that he's been thinking about the tree, the one from the picture, and he thinks that the tree hates him. He mentions the noise that he can hear constantly, and the researcher suggests that maybe he's hearing the digging team from above. He says maybe, and then falls asleep for a few hours, before waking with a start. The researcher says that he could go back to sleep if he wants, but he insists that he's getting out, taking his lantern and shovel and resuming to dig. After a while, he complains about the stench again and asks why there's so many bodies. The researcher suggests that perhaps he's below a graveyard, and it would be a good sign as the surface would be close. This just causes the D-Class to laugh, and it's clear that he's beginning to lose his grip on his sanity. He continues to dig, dumping more and more body parts behind him as he goes on, until he's interrupted by a sudden heavy noise and his lantern goes out. He reveals to the researcher that the tunnel behind him just collapsed, burying the lantern and blocking his way back. He begins to panic again, but the researcher tells him that he can do this. He just has to dig his way back to the house, as there isn't enough air for him now. The D-Class exclaims that he can't go back and begins to cry for the researcher to help him. He eventually begins to shovel some of the soil from the collapsed tunnel, causing more earth to fall from above, along with a human leg in the early stages of decomposition, clothed in gray rags. He retches, but continues to dig, forming a low hole with dirt continuing to fall from the ceiling of the remaining tunnel. The researcher urges him onward, but there's another loud noise, with the camera revealing that more of the tunnel roof has collapsed, reducing the remaining tunnel to a few meters in length. The camera then turns abruptly upwards, and the D-Class gasps. When the tunnel roof had fallen in, a series of thin tree roots had been exposed. Above them, there is no dirt, with the roots instead extending upwards into empty blackness as far as his headlamp's light can reach. The D-Class whimpers, drops his shovel, and scrambles into the low hole that he dug in the collapsed section, crawling forward. He ignores all attempts by the monitoring team to communicate with him and continues digging forward slowly with his bare hands. His camera view shows dirt on all sides, and the microphone records rapid breathing. He continues forward for approximately 30 minutes, his hands appearing to be bleeding in several places, with the hole he's in remaining narrow and low. Suddenly, he jerks to a stop and exclaims that something's got his foot. The hole is too cramped for him to turn to look, but he continues to scream that something has grabbed him. The camera moves wildly, but nothing can be seen on his foot, and he continues to hyperventilate. He cries that he has to get out, and begins to claw at the roof of the hole, attempting to dig directly upwards as dirt falls onto the camera. The researcher tries to calm him down, telling him that he has to go forward or he'll run out of air, but the D-Class ignores him and continues to dig upwards. Soon, he reveals some gray fabric, and as more earth falls, it reveals a human torso covered in a gray jumpsuit. The D-Class says that it's him. Those are his clothes, and they are all him. He then screams and scratches at the body's clothing, revealing a partially obscured number on the chest of the jumpsuit. He continues to claw frantically at the sides and roof of the hole, exposing the head of the corpse. The corpse's face appears to resemble the D-Class's, causing him to continue to scream. He attempts to roll over to face away from the body, but there's a loud noise, and the corpse falls on top of him, along with a large volume of earth. When the camera refocuses, the head of the corpse is directly in front of the lens, with packed soil visible above it. The researcher asks if he can hear him and can move, but he only responds with rapid, shallow breathing and whimpering, causing the researcher to simply apologize to him. After approximately 30 minutes, he begins to make noises consistent with suffering convulsions due to excessive carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. After a further 8 minutes, no further sounds are audible. The digging team continued to excavate for a further 2 hours, reaching a depth of approximately 50 meters. With no unusual results observed, the team ceased their digging. The D-Class's camera and light continued operation for another 123 hours before running out of battery. Analysis of the final 5 hours of film has identified sounds consistent with muffled digging, slowly growing louder. Being buried alive, surrounded by dirt, is certainly a bad enough fate. Being buried alive repeatedly, with your only fate being dying underground over and over with no memory of what's going on thanks to an extremely hateful tree, is on a whole other level. This is another one of those old school SCPs that is more akin to a creepypasta than an expansive canon with numerous characters. The SCP itself is pretty easy to contain, just by keeping it in a box away from any sleeping people. But the fact that this guy is now stuck in a never-ending loop of underground death is the truly horrific part. As usual, being a D class in the Foundation has to really, really suck.
These stories are sick, aren't they? Like, yeah, this guy's channel is amazing. I would definitely recommend getting into this SCP spooky story kind of stuff. I had a quick question for you if anyone's listening at this point in the video, but I came across an interesting dilemma here. So I want each of these titles from the games to line up, like, you know, have like be relatively the same size. So because I have to scale up Megaman 8 and probably the other one's text, so just so it, you know, it's relatively the same size, I can't have the boss title off in the corner like I was before. So my question to you is, does this look better if I have the title at the top and the boss name at the bottom? Because I don't think it interferes with the visualizer or anything like that. Speaking of visualizer, I'm just going to quickly change that. I do not like that dull red color. It's alright, but I don't know, I'll change it to something else. I don't know, just to keep it interesting, right? I mean, yeah, a nice cyan color works. I like that. Oh, there we go. I'm like, why isn't it? Yeah, so it's... that looks cool. Yeah, so my question was... I don't know, should I keep it at the bottom or should I put it at the top? I mean, what makes more sense to you as the viewer? Like, you get what I mean? Like, that to me just looks kind of awkward. Like the way I would... Oh, I still didn't remove those. Anyway, the way I would describe this is like, I'm trying to think of how to guide the viewer's eye. So, for example, he would be probably a little bit more off to the right, a little bit more centered. And just from, you know, like growing up in the West, I read from left to right, top to bottom. So it just looks weird to me to see the boss name at the top like that and the title at the bottom. I kind of like it the other way, to be honest. Something like that, right? So immediately, you know, you're looking at the video, like, if you're reading, like, okay, left to right, there's nothing much to read, just some bars and a helmet. But if you look at the top, you're like, oh, okay, it's Mega Man 8, and we are listening to Turbo Man. But I guess, well, I'm not gonna nerd out, okay? Yeah, it's Mega Man 8, it's Turbo Man. For like you know, for the layman, it doesn't really matter, okay? But if you're like a Mega Man fan, then I don't know. I guess you know that Turbo Man is not in Mega Man 8. He's in Mega Man 7, but nobody really cares about that. So, but yeah, like, I don't know. I just want to pause the narrations and ask you a question. And I guess I can explain my little like what I have in store for this. So just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna remove the... Oh, let me just do it from this. I'm just gonna remove those things that I'm not using. Should rename that too. Yeah, what am I even describing here? This is the problem with me trying to stream what I'm doing. It's like I'll say something, then I get sidetracked by this, just like renaming or just doing something. But yeah. What I was gonna say, I was gonna highlight what I want to do with these bars. So let me just. Yeah, I think that should be perfect. Yeah. So what I'm describing here is. Here's what I want. So right now, everything is tied together. Let me just turn off that little overlay. So right now, again, I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah, I apologize for that. Just keep getting sidetracked. And this is part of the reason I wanted to organize this too, like off camera, just so it, I'm not fumbling around and try to explain like technical things when I can't even explain it properly. But yeah, okay, here's the deal. So right now you have the HP bar, this far left one, the weapon bar, which is like, corresponds to the color of the helmet. And then you have the boss bar, okay? Right now they all wrong. Okay. Right now they all fill up at the exact same time at the exact same rate because they're driven by the exact same equation. So what I want to do here, I'll just leave them like that for now. I'll turn back on that overlay. So what I want to do is I want this bar, the HP bar, to this is gonna be awkward to explain, but let me put it this way. I'll because I want to animate all this anyway. So if we're on, let me just go to this layout tab so it's easier here. Okay, so this is a very convoluted explanation. This bar, this life bar, corresponds to where we are in the series. So if we look at each of these games, oh, I'm missing one too. But if we look at these, so when we start at number 1, okay? When we start at Megaman 1, it's so hard to explain. We're at full health, okay? Full HP. And when we get to number 2, again, this is going to be, I'll just show, I don't have to show you the camera thing. We'll be like that, okay? And then we get to Megaman 3, and it goes down a little bit more, and a little, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. By the time we're at like 9, it should be all the way like down here. And that's to give the viewer, a little indication that like we're on the 9th out of 10th, yeah, we're on the 9th out of 10th game. So this video or whatever you want to call it is coming to a close. So like that's how I want to relate this far left bar. So this bar, the weapon bar, I want that to correlate to the length of the remix that I'll be doing. So if it's a 2-minute remix, let's say it starts like that. First it'll fill up at the top, and then if it's a 2-minute remix, it'll over 2 minutes or 120 seconds. That bar, that weapon bar, will start to deplete, and then when it hits 0, it goes down. Then it brings up the next one, and it switches color to like the next track, the next remix, or the next boss, if you want to call it. So this boss HP, if I remembered this right. So keep in mind, this life bar goes down when we move on to another game, okay? So just for simplicity's sake, imagine that a game is 8 bosses, okay? So 8 bosses times 10 is 80 plus like another 8 is like 88. So yeah, oh my god, this is so complicated. So this bar, essentially the life bar, goes down after the 88 bosses or the 88 remixes. And this weapon bar goes down per remix. So you'll notice that this weapon bar actually goes like up and down, up and down. Like it goes down a lot quicker than the life bar. So what about the boss bar, you must be asking, or probably not because you don't care. Well, I do. So I'm going to explain. Like I said, there are 8 bosses in each game, like minus the first one because there were 6, but I don't want to get into that. So what I want to do is, let's say we're on the very first boss of Mega Man 7. Okay, this is confusing because like these titles aren't making sense. Mega Man 7, okay? So we have 8 bosses. So when we're at boss number 1, the boss bar will be full. And we beat him. Okay, it goes down a little bit. Then we go on to boss number 2. We beat him. Or not beat, like, you know, the remix finishes. Then we go down a little bit more. And then, so let me put it this way. If there's 8 bosses, and this health, the boss bar is at half, then you know that 4 tracks already are, like, we already listened to 4 remixes. There are 4 more left. So it's kind of hard to explain because everything's all animated the exact same, but the way I want to put it is like this. Oh no. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this drains fast. Okay, per track. So like 2 minutes it'll go down. This is slower because it goes down per boss. So every track this will drain to 0. Every 8 tracks this will drain to 0. And then I guess every 8 tracks this bar right here, it doesn't drain. It doesn't go to 0. It just drains a little bit. So slowest. Oh my god, this is horrible. So I hope that makes sense. This goes down the fastest because it's each track. This goes down slower because it's per 8 bosses. And this bar, the life bar, goes down the slowest. You'll probably barely even notice it unless you're watching the whole video. And honestly speaking, I would not do that. I would not sit and watch the whole video because, again, I don't want to try and jinx myself or anything like that. But I am planning on doing quite a number of remixes. So to sit there and watch this would be kind of a waste of time, to be honest. Like my intent of this little visualizer is like, I don't know, you're doing the dishes or something, you throw it up on your TV, and then like every now and then you can glance at it, you know, you see these cool like waveforms moving around, you see like I don't know, these bars are going up and down, stuff like that, you know, just something to have in the background. That's my intention here. But yeah, I'm running out of things to say now. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna start trying to organize out these little boss sheets. So I need quite a few of them, and I do have I don't know. Let me put it this way: I don't have all the bosses just yet, but I'll work on organizing that later, like sometime later. But right now, I'm just gonna organize them that way. So like, let me just show you something really quick, okay? I learned how to. Oh, I guess I didn't learn because I can't find it. I learned how to do something fun here. Let me show you with this one. And it's gone because I switched a bunch of stuff. Okay, yeah, so just give me 1 second here. Yeah, sorry, just give me 1 second and I can explain what I'm trying to do. There we go. So I learned how to make these stencils out of the so if you look at these character like these are all the bosses I'm going to use, and there's a few more but they're not included in this sheet. But let's just take Megaman for example, right? Like there's his base sprite and everything with a little bit of shader magic, you know, just plugging stuff in and out. I learned how to, well, I'll just show you right here. If I swap those inputs, that's what I've been using right now to make it transparent, right? If I reverse these, I can actually make it, so instead of this white part being transparent, now the colored part is, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. So I can take that a step further, and I can do something like this. So if I have a, yeah, this is really unorganized right now, but I'm just trying to explain it as best as I can. So I want to paint on this object, right? This black cube object. So what I can do actually is I could grab a stencil. And again, you just have to bear with me here. I moved a bunch of stuff, so let me just, yeah, there we go. So here's my, okay, so if you're wondering what I did, so I took the base Megaman image, I did a little bit of shader stuff to it, so I basically made it like a little cutout of that character, or like of Megaman. And then I saved that image, and then I inverted the colors on it, and I guess I could have done that in Blender, but I don't know, I couldn't figure it out, so what I'm saying is, kind of hard to explain because it's so like technical and like I barely understand it myself. But essentially, I learned how to make a little stencil out of the character. So let's just say, for example, I paint. Oh, let me turn up the opacity just so you can see what I'm doing. You see what I mean? So I took the character from that sprite sheet, I inverted the colors, and then I made a little cutout of him. So now what I can do. Oh, that looks kind of cool. Let's go with another color and we'll reduce the opacity a little bit. And then I'll just, move it around a little bit. I'll do it one more time, just to give you the idea here. So if you look at that stencil, it's kind of terrible because you can't really see it. I don't know, the lighting is bad right now, but it opens up a new possibility for me. I actually kind of like that. That looks actually kind of sick. But what I'm saying is, for my little program, or no, what am I saying? My little program, this little visualizer that I'm making, right? What I'm thinking of doing is see if I have this Turbo Man guy. How cool would it be to have like a stencil, like a colored stencil of him like appear first, so like that colored stencil appears on screen. And then it fades out to like the sprite. You get what I mean? So just a little flashy kind of introduction thing, or I don't know, just something to make it more interesting. And this text, I feel like this text needs to be a little bit, I don't know, it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. It seems kind of bland, I would say. Like, don't get me wrong, it works. It works just fine, but I don't know. I feel like there's something missing in it. Like maybe like a. I don't even know what that does. Maybe a sort of I don't know, like tilted or something. I don't know, or like an outline effect. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta play around with that. And oh, cool. What is that? I gotta play around with this and figure it out. To me. Oh, I could extrude it that way. What? Oh, I did not know that. Yeah, okay, so it's something like that, maybe. Again, because it's kind of awkward because like we're looking at it flat on, right? Like just head on, we're looking at it. So if I were to do that, I would have to tilt it a little bit or rotate it or something, just to give you the idea that yes, it's 3D, right? It's but right now, I don't know, like that's a very minor thing, to be honest. I don't feel like that's important. Like, not now, anyway, so. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to ramble a little bit and talk about what my plans for this are, so. I might do it off stream or I might organize and figure stuff out, but no, like, I already went over those animation things I want to do. The stencil thing I want to do with the boss. But for now, I think I might actually end the stream pretty soon. I mean, I'd kind of accomplished what I set out to do, but. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll probably keep listening to that spooky guy and just keep working away at this till I want to say till 8ish, and then that gives me time to do my things too. So I don't know. I wanted to try and do this stream a little bit earlier, so I don't know. Just so I can. I don't know. Just so I'm not staying up so late working on it. You know what I mean? I can just get it out of the way and then move on to doing other stuff, so yeah, I guess I'm just gonna I don't know, it's gonna be pretty boring. I'm just gonna put on the SCP guy. All I'm gonna do is just organize these, and yeah, it's gonna be boring stuff regardless, but yeah, let's see it. Well, let's just take a look at these remixes for a second. Let's bring that on screen. Oh, that is so cool. I did not realize. I can have it like a. I can have this screen be really tiny. And it still shows up as full screen for you. That's so much more convenient for me. Yeah, I'll probably do these on a different on a different stream. But as you can see, like I got really lazy with this. Like I mean, there's a ton of ton of remixes to go through. I mean, listen to this. Like that does not sound good to me at all. Yeah, so anyway, like I was explaining like streams ago was that these were only templates, you know, I'm just laying out the groundwork and later on I'll go through and start tweaking them. And I did. I mean, you could check Airman. So yeah, I have been working on these, just not as I don't know, not as much as I'd hope I would, but I don't know. I needed a break from all these remixes, but yeah, I plan on doing a probably. Oh, I don't know. I might just do a music stream next time I stream. I I don't know. I work so much on this visualizer. It kind of feels anticlimactic. You know, I was expecting this to be like amazing, and you know, to be so like I don't know to like I can't even think of a word. You see what I mean? Like to me, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just that stupid thing I threw together. It lost its charm. But I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, this is gonna take me quite a while. You have to forgive me. Like it's been so long since I've done music that I kind of just it pulls me in like this every time I work on music. If I'm not burnt out on it, it just like I stop what I'm doing and I kind of just I don't know how to explain it, man. Like I just get in the zone or something. I just start like tweaking things and you know I start enjoying the music. But again, I just wanted to briefly bring up this. I just wanted to briefly demonstrate what I've been doing with. Well, I don't know. I guess it's been a while since I've done all these remixes or worked on them. So let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Before I start, this is sick. So this is like a great example of Wait, can I do? Yeah, it looked better before. I'll just leave it like that. This is an example of what I was talking about like months ago, when I said that I will go through a track and I will chop it up and then reuse different pieces of it. It makes me sound like a pretty messed up guy, but no. I'll go through the track, I'll take out little snippets, and then I just rearrange them. So here's an example of Storm Eagle, you know, the infamous Megaman X1 track that everybody loves, but it's not done. You know, I just put a little spin on it. So like, my goal is to do maybe not all the tracks, but a good number of them in this way. So I don't know, just take a listen. So yeah, very rough draft of that, but that's pretty much the direction I want to go in. So similar to this one, this Slash Man remix. If you take a look at that, I just did a bunch of weird stuff to it, but it sounds different. Yeah, I think I put in like about a week's worth of work into that. I can't remember to be honest, but yeah, I actually did like get absorbed into that track, you know, because I grew up on that one. But that's pretty much the goal for the music, right? That's like what I want to end up doing for. I want to say all of them, but like honestly, just some of these tracks, I literally just don't enjoy. Like, I hate ripping on this track, but it's not for me. But yeah, I mean, not to shit on the track. It's fine, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious now. I mean, like, I guess we'll just continue listening to that SCP guy, and then because like what I want to do on stream is like I'm just gonna shut off this. I'll play one more. May as well. Honestly, I kind of like this one better. But yeah, I don't know. Some of these tracks I grew up on, so I don't know. I just like I like working on them, but a lot of them are kind of weird. I don't know. I didn't expect to be running out of steam so soon. To be honest, I thought I would just be up and ready to go on these streams, but I don't know. I think bit by bit is kind of how I want to do it. I don't want to. I don't know. I want to enjoy this, right? I mean, I do enjoy it, but I don't know. I think I might just do a music stream next time, and just. I mean, I'll explain. I've been spending way too much time with these classic tracks and working on this visualizer, so I don't know. I kind of just want to do stuff like no, this one's too intense. Like, oh my, I went all out for this remix. Sorry, it happened again. Like I listen to it, then I get into it, and I'm like, yeah, this is hype. But I want to work on different stuff. You know what I mean? Like I might want to do like a I can't even explain. I might want to do a stream where I just do like my stuff. My very very weird stuff, and like that track that you heard at the very beginning, that this one I think. Like, I'll be real with you. I miss doing stuff like this. Like, even this weird track I came up with. Again, very, very rough draft. I think I did that on stream like a couple of weeks ago when I was talking to Void Money, and I guess some other guy came in stream and started chit chatting about random stuff. And yeah, sorry, I just got a text. And it kind of reminded me. I mean, it's fun to make, like, I don't know. I have a weird relationship with like music and even doing like this creative stuff. Oh, you can't see the screen, but like the like this stuff too is like I'll go into it and then I'll reach a burnout point, and like I'll reach a burnout point where I kind of get sick of it, and I put so much time and effort into thinking about it and making little notes and doodles and all that, but I don't know, at the end of the day I kind of like it's my fault. I kind of ruin it for myself. Like I ruin it for myself, to be honest. Like, temporarily, of course, I'll bounce back and forth, but I don't know. I think I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, I've been working on this little project for the last, like, since, I don't know, mid-December. Not the visualizer, like the music and stuff, since mid-December, and like the last 3 months now, it's been nothing but like this Megaman stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just gets. I thought I would be able to handle it. Like, I honestly thought it'd be like, oh yeah, I can just bang out remixes left and right. But then, like, the scope of this project grew to this, where I'm like, okay, I'll remix all of these, and it's like, well, a lot of them I don't even care about. Like, I don't know what this sounds like. I don't even remember what Cold Smile sounds like. Like, you know what I mean? But that being said, it's not a race. I'm not aiming to do this like I'm not aiming for a deadline to finish all of this, right? It's just like a how do I explain it? It's like I'm playing a video game, right? And like I'm on like this main quest that I'm doing, and like if I do all of this work, then I get to end game and stuff. But right now, I'm still grinding away at it. And, I have like a lot of remixes to go through, but my idea is I'm not going to put in the same amount of effort as I do into all of them. Some of them will just be basic instrument swaps, and it'll just, like, I don't know, this Solar or Sopler, because I can't spell. It doesn't need to be rearranged. It sounds fine the way it is, you know what I mean? So my goal is, yeah, like I'm just gonna take it slow, take it easy, and yes, I can do all these remixes. I'm not trying to gloat or anything. I'm telling myself that like it's doable. It's just my approach to it has to be like not stressful. Let me put it that way. If I'm stressing about this, it's not going to be fun. It's just going to feel like a job to me, or like something I don't want to do. And it is something I want to do. I feel like this project, doing all these remixes. Oh, you can't even see the damn thing. Doing all these remixes that I'm scrolling through, right? And on top of that, building up this little visualizer and then animating everything and video editing it all together. To me, it's all just fun, right? It's just something I enjoy doing. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it just adds like an extra layer to the music to actually have like elements reacting to it on screen and moving about. And I guess I kind of got lucky with all this pixel art that the I don't know, that the official artists at Capcom made years ago. I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought here, but what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know, I think I flew too close to the sun this time, and that's a terrible analogy. I don't know, I'm tired of working on this visualizer. Let me put it this way. I think next stream I'm just gonna do the music and focus on the music again, because I got this to like the point I wanted at. I mean, I have my titles, I have my pixel art, the stupid bars that move up and down, and the helmet, I guess, that, like the spinning helmet. Okay, like that's what set this whole thing off. Like when I made that helmet, I was so excited about it that I started building and building. Like before, it used to just be that like this little helmet would spin. It didn't even change colors. It didn't even, there was no lighting to it. It didn't have these icons like that change. And then from there, I kind of just started building this visualizer element to it, and I don't know, it got kind of out of hand. I'll admit that. So I think I'm the only one to blame for that, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta remind myself to like like just watch TV, just play games or something, or like go to the gym, right? Like there's other things you can do to like relax and entertain yourself. So I don't know. I'm rambling for no reason here, but I don't know. This Blender thing, man, like it feels like a blessing and a curse. Like, of course, I'm very proud of what I was able to accomplish right now, and I hope to continue working on it. But I think sometimes I just need a break from it all and gotta recharge myself. And I did take a break. Like over the weekend, I barely did any of this, and I figured, I could just take a few days off and then get right back to it. But I feel like where I'm at right now, I just need to do more planning and to solidify what I want to do with this. Like, I like this title, by the way, like in the bottom. It really fills the screen. But yeah, I gotta plan out what I want to do and how I want to do it. And to me, it feels like if I'm figuring that stuff out on stream, like if you just see me tweaking a bunch of math formulas, like it's kind of boring. I mean, I could go over it, but like even I myself am not feeling it. I'm not feeling like I want to do that because I don't know. You saw how much stuff I put into this. Like it's so technical, and it's been nothing but technical for like the last few weeks. And I'm like, well, when will I go back to modeling stuff? When do I go back to like painting stuff and like or to making music? So yeah, I think this UI thing, it kind of got on my nerves a little bit here, but I don't know. I'm not complaining. It sounds like I am, but honestly, I'm just trying to like reflect a little bit and I don't know. To be completely honest with you, like I kind of realize like that it's like the point of these streams is like for me to document what I'm doing, but it's also kind of nice to just get my thoughts out there. Like I could, I have thoughts of my own, but I don't know. During these streams, I feel like I can really just be myself. I can just ramble about whatever the hell is going on in my mind, and honestly speaking, it kind of helps. Like it feels good to just to get that kind of stuff out of your system, right? Because like, man, I'll tell you, the last few last week or so, I was thinking about nothing but this stupid visualizer, and there's always a little feature that I want to implement, or like, oh, I could do this better, I could do that, or I can add this, and what if I did this, and don't get me wrong, all of these like led to some pretty great results, namely that visual or the stencil thing. But I think I just gotta like pump the brakes on this one and do something else. So that being said, I'm gonna do one more SCP story. Let's listen to the spooky stories, and I'll just organize some assets here. And yeah, I think next stream, most likely be tomorrow. I think I'll just focus on music, and then in my downtime, I'll organize more of these assets behind the scenes and maybe figure out those formulas. And like I said, like I don't know, like how long, like an hour ago or something, that I actually do plan on doing like an overview video of like how all of this came to be and how the little tips and tricks and like I don't know how to model the helmet or something like that. So I do plan on trying to document it better in like one concise video. Maybe not one, maybe like a few, right? Because like what I know now, like I could make this again in so much less time than I spent on this because like I don't even know how long I've spent on this, to be completely honest with you. I think I've spent like, I want to say more than 8 hours, like figuring out and researching and like, like, it was a good learning experience. Let me put it that way. Like, I learned so much about this, or like so much about Blender in general. Like, you're doing shape keys and like automation and a bunch of shader stuff. So, even some of the lighting I learned, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm at a point where I just can't stand it right now. And it's fine. I mean, it's natural. You can't expect to do the same thing over and over and over every day and not get bored of it, right? I mean, it's like human nature. So, with that being said, I'm gonna shut up now. I've rambled on like for way too long. Let's just listen to some spooky stuff for like half hour or something like that, and I'll just chip away at this and organize stuff, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to get that out of my system. I feel like this thing's been bugging me for a little bit now, and I try to tell myself like, oh, it's fine. Just keep working at it, keep working at it. But no, it doesn't work that way. So I don't know. It's just one big learning experience. All right, that's enough from me. Let's find something else to listen to.
SCP 4010. Attempt to look at what we accomplished. One of the more common requests within the SCP community is for a single, unified timeline of the SCP universe. This is, of course, a rather impossible task, not because of the thousands of entries of different SCPs and tales, but because of the myriad of different canons and unique timelines within the universe. As it turns out, though, fans weren't the only ones interested in seeing such a timeline, as the Foundation itself had the idea of mapping out their own history of the universe. Since we're here to discuss an SCP, though, you can probably guess that it didn't go as planned. SCP-4010 concerns a single researcher, Madeline Saylor, who received a message from one of the O5s in which they inform her that she's been selected for Project Kronos, an attempt to establish a complete chronological timeline. They're not forcing her onto the project, but if she accepts, she'll be completely isolated from the rest of the Foundation until the project is finished, for the purposes of confidentiality, with an estimated completion time of 1 year. She replies that she needs time to think about it and asks how urgent it is. The O5 responds with a single word, very, resulting in Madeline accepting. Why exactly the Foundation would urgently need a complete timeline of their universe is pretty interesting, and apparently enough to entice Madeline into the project. Her task is to establish a timeline of documented history as complete as possible, including anomalous events. The entirety of the Foundation database is made available to her, aside from things that they've already ruled out as being unrelated and or possibly cognitohazardous. The 001 slot is also available to her, but only once she asks for permission, as they think that she should have the basics in place first, since 001 could complicate things a little. Some of the information she will come across must remain in absolute secrecy, even after the project's finished, and they warn her that she'll come across some startling information that she might think is too far-fetched or impossible to be true, but it is. Madeline begins her timeline in very broad strokes, putting down the beginning of the universe and its presumable end, then adding the current date, the approximate time when Earth was formed and when life began, and finally when humans entered the picture. With that done, she begins looking into the database. Setting aside the actual problem of creating a unified timeline, simply reading through all of the SCP entries on the database is a massive task, not even counting all of the extra information that's been made available to her. She goes through about 50 of them in a day, remarking on how some of them even made her laugh, such as the infinite pizza box. A few days go by, and she notes that she found an issue in which years don't match up, and if even 1 year doesn't fit, how can she be sure about the rest? It's possible that it's just a typo, but it could also be a reality shift, something that she heard might be a thing. She decides to get an official response about this to clear it up. A response comes 2 days later, confirming that it is indeed a reality shift, one of many. Madeline laments that they've given her an impossible task, and it would be better to just have the computer automate the task. She soldiers on, though, mentioning that she just read about what happened to Dr. Scranton, alluding to the events of SCP-3001, the Red Reality. This leads to another wrench in the engine, though, as his birth date is listed as 1961, but the Scranton Reality Anchor was apparently invented in 1889. She ponders if there's multiple Dr. Scrantons, such as relatives, or if it's just another reality shift, which she remarks would be ironic, considering his invention of reality anchors. On the 11th day after starting the project, she realizes that she never put down the date of the Foundation's start, and begins digging into that. Most of the data regarding the Foundation's origin is locked behind SCP-001, which she hasn't requested access for yet. She knows that the Foundation's civil war, which resulted in the creation of the Chaos Insurgency, occurred between 1924 and 1933, so the Foundation must have existed for some time prior to that. Some documents she's found suggest that the Foundation or a Foundation equivalent existed since the medieval ages, or even before. This leads to an especially big wrench in the engine as she gets to SCP-2000, the complex underneath Yellowstone that can restart the world. This means that all of the recorded dates and years could be completely wrong, and the fact that an entire population of humanity might have preceded them, possibly multiple times. She continues soldiering on, though, as she's already gone through 9% of the database. She's not going in order, but instead just picking one thing by another however she feels like, making small holes in this giant pile she needs to take apart. She ends up liking SCP-140, the Davite book, as it rewrites history, but at least it writes down how. 3 weeks have gone by now since the start, and she wishes that she would get a break once in a while, as she hasn't really spoken with any other staff. She remarks on SCP-999 being a large, amorphous, gelatinous mass of translucent slime, and wonders how many of those types of creatures they seem to have, along with statues that move when not looking at them. She finally decides to take a week-long break, but nobody seems to notice or punish her for doing so. She eventually discovers thaumatology, also known as magic, and wonders why they're not allowed to know that magic exists, as apparently the GOC uses it. On day 51, she writes that she hates herself and wonders why she can't be more cooperative. She just wants to say it in the third person, and says she's such a stupid cognito hazard. It seems that she stumbled upon SCP-426 and wanted to write about it, a toaster that can only be referred to in the first person. 2 months have gone by now, and she's slowly reaching the point of having covered 20% of the database. On day 63, she finds SCP-1609, the remains of a sentient chair that the GOC put through a wood chipper, which she finds to be hilarious. She later reads about SCP-2399, a massive damaged weapon located on Jupiter, with her remarking that she'll never see Jupiter the same way again. She also feels that she experienced a reality shift herself, as she specifically remembers setting a date 10,000 years from now for the arrival of an angry star, but now she can't find it. This would be a reference to the original SCP-1548, the Hateful Star, which has since been removed from the SCP database. She continues to find more inconsistencies among the database, but chooses to wait some more before requesting access to SCP-001. She finds SCP-2845, remarking on how gross it is that they have a deer god contained by castrating people, and that's not even the worst thing about it. She put her morality away almost a month ago when she read about Procedure 110 Montauk. She says that she's here to do this job, not to join the ethics committee, which she also notes does either a very poor or excellent job, depending on individual cases. On day 100 of working on the project, she's covered 32.1% of the Foundation database, and says that the timeline is looking kinda decent when you remove everything contradictory. The problem is that the contradictory stuff keeps popping up, and she doesn't want to ever see another time travel Thaumiel SCP. She's honestly thought about quitting the project, but something in her is curious about whatever it was that deserved the SCP-001 designation, so she finally requests access. Of course, upon being granted access, she's shocked to discover that there isn't just one SCP-001, but instead dozens of proposals for 001. Rather than trying to fit all of them into the timeline, though, she decides to try and figure out which one is the actual 001 by cross-checking the data with the rest of the database. As it turns out, though, not only are all of them contradictory with one another, none of them fit neatly into her current timeline. She starts to question her own sanity while looking at this massive problem, one which severely warps her perception of reality. She decides to accept the Broken God proposal as the real 001, as there's enough dates and documentation to make it seem believable, but she actually hopes that Kate McTierris's proposal is real, the one in which a researcher uses the 001 slot to turn herself into a deity. It's just not that simple, though, as if she takes the Gate Guardian as a real 001 proposal, it crosses out the possibility of 4 others as being real. If she starts looking at ones that will apparently happen in the future, such as when day breaks, it would require at least 2 major reality shifts to be possible in their current timeline. She takes another break before buckling down, and soon it's been 150 days since the start of the project. Her timeline is still quite incomplete, as there's so many reality-bending anomalies, time travel machines, and impossible origin stories to consider. She wonders if this is how researcher Talleyrand suffered in 3999. By day 170, Madeline manages to fit SCP-055 into the timeline, which took a while as she kept forgetting about it. The following day, though, she finds SCP-055 in her sorted pile, even though she hasn't read it yet. She moves on to reading about all the groups of interest, such as Dr. Wondertainment, who reminds her of Willy Wonka. She's bothered by the existence of the Black Queen, as she's terrified of having to deal with infinite universes of anomalies. She hates Are We Cool Yet?, as she's seen far too many of their anomalies from her former research work. She notes that one day the computer says that she's gone through 61% of the database, when the day prior she could have sworn it said 58%. Aside from that, though, she figures out a way to deal with all of the conflicting information. She decides to embrace the inherent chaos of her universe, especially since she knows it's a possibility that her existence is due to a bunch of horror writers, and she plans on creating multiple timelines that contradict one another. The following day, though, she looks at the database and sees that there's only 120 left for her to look over, and she's gone through 2,984. She knows there were a lot more than that when she started, and when she looks at her sheet of multiple timelines, she only sees one. When she went outside of her office, she discovered that there wasn't a cafeteria there, because she's no longer in Site 91. Instead, she's in Site 13, but it doesn't seem to be the nightmarish version from SCP-1730. Reality has been reconstructed somehow, but her perception has not changed, allowing her to witness the shift. She decides to continue working on the single timeline, since 1,500 SCPs or so have stopped existing, making the project a bit easier to manage. She's not ruling out the possibility that her work caused the change, since she isn't experiencing any sign of her memories being altered, meaning that she's immune to the shift for some reason. It seems that by slotting everything into a timeline, the universe is correcting itself by removing anything that doesn't fit properly. This has been happening for quite a while now as she's been working, but she's only realized now. At this point, only 43% of the original database remains, and there are only 8 001 proposals. She immediately stops working on the project, but entries continue to disappear from the database regardless. Soon, she finds herself no longer in Site 13, but rather just in Site 3. Since more and more SCPs are being removed from existence, the Foundation's reality is changing as well. Since there's less anomalies around, the Foundation itself would be a lot smaller than it normally is, so they only have a few sites, and there's no O5 Council, instead only a single individual known as the Administrator. The GOC in this version of reality was disbanded after the fall of communism, and the Foundation now has as much funding as the FBI's UIU division normally has. No one else seems to be aware that reality has changed, and as far as they're concerned, Madeline is still just working on a secret project. By day 233, around 25% of the original database is still intact, with 80% of it sorted by Madeline. By day 240, the Foundation no longer exists. Instead, it's just a single building somewhere on the eastern coast of the US, housing around 20 anomalies and 10 researchers, including Madeline. Soon it's down to 12 SCPs, and then 5, with 5 researchers. Madeline was assigned to study one of them, SCP-173, although it's not called that anymore, and it's not nearly as scary, since it moves very slowly now. By day 250, there's only 3 researchers left, and 4 anomalies. SCP-173, some window that shows other places, the Book of Diseases, and Madeline herself. The following day, the book disappeared along with one of the researchers, and they're no longer an organization, but instead just a small group of people that got together on the internet. By day 250, it's just Madeline and 173. Soon it stops moving entirely, becoming an utterly mundane statue, and leaving Madeline as apparently the last anomaly to exist. She says that this world is so much different than hers, with nothing paranormal, no fear, and no wonder. The following day, the statue disappears, and then all of her notes and paperwork about the timeline disappears as well, leaving no evidence whatsoever that the world once contained anomalies. She spends a couple weeks trying to live normally in this new reality, leaving her past behind her, but it doesn't work out. She speaks to a psychiatrist about everything that happened, but of course, they don't believe her. Eventually, though, while browsing the internet for anything related to cryptozoology, myths, and legends, she finds a photograph of SCP-173 standing by a concrete wall. She downloads it as evidence to bring to her psychiatrist, but of course, her psychiatrist simply says that she's living in a world that is an illusion. It's clear that Madeline's sanity is starting to slip at this point. She writes up an SCP entry for SCP-173, and on day 346 decides to share the entry on a cryptozoology forum, along with the picture that she downloaded. The people on the forum like the post and begin creating their own SCPs, exciting Madeline and reminding her of the old days. They soon begin making a community around SCPs, and Madeline wants to join but worries that she might do something wrong and they'll reject her as crazy. On day 360, though, it clicks for her, and she realizes the implications of what she's done, and how her reality might possibly be created by a bunch of horror writers. She knows what she has to do now. She joins the SCP site and writes a new article mirroring the start of this one, in which an O5 proposes to researcher Madeline Saylor that she begin work on creating a timeline of the SCP universe. This apparently resulted in the creation of a paradox, which flipped back reality to what it used to be. She's not at all sure how it worked, but her reality is now being held together entirely due to her little paradox. She now knows that trying to bring order to the chaos of her reality is inherently dangerous, as the anomalies demand chaos. She finishes by writing a new SCP entry describing the effects of the project. SCP-4010 then is described as an act of establishing the timeline of the universe while accounting for every shift in reality and every temporal change documented. This action results in major changes to global reality. She leaves a note explaining that the universe is a very complex place of both order and chaos. The Foundation, and humanity in general, is order, while chaos is the unknown, the things they wish to understand. They fear the chaos, and it's that fear that pushes them forward. SCP-4010 is an act of creating order out of chaos, but the universe runs on chaos and demands to remain broken. She knows how bad of an idea it is to understand and explain everything because she tried and succeeded. In order to fully remove all info about Project Kronos, Madeline erases all of the data, burns all of the physical evidence, destroys the audio recorder she's been using, and finally, destroys herself. Madeline really got the short end of the stick on this one, as the O5 Council really had no idea of the repercussions that creating a timeline would create. At the same time, though, she really performed as well as any Foundation member could hope to perform, and it'd be a real shame if she wasn't given some sort of posthumous award for her actions. The SCP universe is definitely a chaotic one compared to many other fictional universes, filled to the brim with contradictory accounts and information, but that's as it should be. So, whenever someone asks for a timeline of the SCP universe, you can let them know that doing so would drain it of the fuel of chaos that the universe needs to survive. SCP-4840, the Demon Lancelot. Video game SCPs. When the average fan thinks of an SCP, they are likely imagining some sort of hostile and dangerous entity, such as the statue or the hard-to-destroy reptile. But as we've seen, anomalies can come in all shapes and sizes. SCPs can exist as locations, cosmic phenomena, animals, mundane objects, and even video games. While this idea might call to mind some well-known video game creepypasta, such as Ben Drowned, SCPs tend to vary quite a bit in direction. Let's take a look at a handful of anomalies either existing as video games or connected to them. SCP-896 is a well-known, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG, and although the version that's playable by the public has no anomalies, the original code does. The abnormal behavior of the original code manifests when a user creates an avatar that shares the exact first and last name of the user. When this happens, the user is imprinted upon the avatar, and any changes to the avatar's statistics will have a direct impact upon the user. There are 6 attributes associated with characters in the game, and raising these stats will cause a corresponding increase in the physical or mental characteristics of the user. If a character's strength increases, so does the user's. If the agility increases, users report a high accuracy of movement and control over their body, allowing for a greater speed of movement with no sacrifice of skill or accuracy. If stamina increases, a user can go longer without food or sleep, has enhanced physical endurance, and even resistance to disease and physical damage. A higher charisma grants the user a deep understanding of individuals and the capability of manipulating them to their own wants. A higher intelligence leads to an increase in information retention and problem solving, while a higher wisdom grants a person a deeper understanding of situations and people and allows them to see the best possible solution for problems, depending on their moral and ethical priorities. So far, it sounds good. However, if any single stat is at least 15% greater than any other stat, all other physical attributes of the user suffer. The Foundation decided to do a test run with 5 D-Class, each focusing on a single stat, while leveling their characters in the game. A Knight to focus on stamina, a Berserker to focus on strength, a Cleric to focus on wisdom, a Warlock to focus on intelligence, and a Bard to focus on charisma. The first test allowed them to play for a few hours, which did not grant much experience, and thus simply established a baseline for each D-Class. After a week of play, however, effects began to become noticeable. The Knight displayed an increased pain tolerance and was able to maintain a full sprint on a treadmill for 2 minutes longer than the week prior, while the Berserker developed a more muscular physique and was able to lift 9% more. The Warlock's abilities in information recall and application have increased dramatically, while the Cleric began conducting highly organized and logical debates with researchers regarding the ethics and purpose of testing humans with SCPs. The Bard's abilities are predictably difficult to test for, however. So far, none of their primary stats have gone over that 15% threshold, so they let them play for another week. During play, the Berserker broke his keyboard and mouse by gripping them too hard, so he was given a new set made of steel. All of the D-Class began deferring to the Bard's judgment in any situation, and began giving all of the magic items they find to him, regardless of his actual need or use for them. The Berserker has been instructed to begin increasing his agility attribute so that he can better control his strength, and the Bard has been forbidden from speaking during testing. The Warlock is now approaching savant-level intelligence, but the Knight and Berserker's IQ has plummeted. Meanwhile, the Bard, Cleric, and Warlock have significantly reduced energy levels now, and have lost 20% of their muscle mass since starting. During the following period of gaming, the Knight and Berserker got into an argument over who should receive a magic item, leading to the Berserker throwing the Knight into a concrete wall. The Berserker was easily subdued by security with a taser, as he possesses no additional toughness or endurance, while the Knight was unharmed by the throw, but he possesses no additional strength. More troublesome, the mental faculties of every subject has plummeted, including the Warlock, who, despite having near-perfect recall, has lost nearly all ability of applying his knowledge. Even the slightest leap in logic or creative thinking is beyond him. Conversely, the cleric's long-term memory has been severely limited, and he must be briefed on all aspects of a problem before formulating a solution. Both the cleric and the warlock now require wheelchairs and assistance in feeding themselves. The knight's skin has become so hard as to lose all elasticity, and the skin near his joints has to be lacerated with a diamond-bladed saw in order to provide the necessary range of movement for testing. The berserker, however, requires continual skin grafting at this point, as his muscle growth has outstripped the elasticity of his skin. Later, the bard managed to breach containment after convincing the guard who brought his food to let him out. He proceeded to walk to the site cafeteria and convinced the personnel there to make him a steak and some strawberry ice cream, and upon completing the meal, returned to his cell to sleep. Recognizing the threat his abilities posed, he was ordered to be terminated, but it's theorized that he only returned to his cell because the thought of escape never even entered his mind. The cleric has requested permission to invest in some intelligence in order to enhance his failing memory, which is tentatively approved, as nearly all of the subjects require the cleric's guidance to perform any task. The berserker, meanwhile, claims that he is no longer experiencing any increase of strength or agility, despite continued gain in the game, but the Foundation isn't quite sure they believe him. Communication with all of the subjects is becoming increasingly difficult due to each of them losing language skills. Sometime later, the berserker managed to remove his shock collar on the way back to their containment cells, killing a few guards due to his strength and speed being much higher than anticipated. He proceeded to free the other subjects, and he and the warlock made their way back to where the game was stored. The knight remained behind to hold off the rest of the guards for 10 minutes, as standard weaponry couldn't harm him. He was eventually terminated by being forced into a containment cell and asphyxiated, which took around 20 minutes. Upon reaching the 896 containment cell, the warlock instructed the berserker to open the security door, which he did by ripping it off its hinges. This act swiftly killed him, however, as the force required to do so resulted in a number of his bones being shattered and his spine snapping in 3 places. He had the strength to perform the feat, but his bone structure was still, unfortunately, human. The warlock then accessed the game, taking 7 minutes to decipher the source code and directly edit his character's stats. Upon changing all of his stats to the max values, he disappeared and has yet to be found. Upon reviewing his account information stored in the game, researchers found a customer service notation simply stating that the user has been banned for hacking. The cleric managed to escape containment during the whole debacle, and his whereabouts are also unknown. He was likely the mastermind behind the whole breach, and likely used the help of a researcher to access another SCP and use it to escape. It was also later discovered that another researcher was conservatively using the game to augment his stats, leveling them uniformly to avoid any negative effects. He was 53 years old, in good health, and his strength and IQ had increased 7% over the course of playing the game. At one point, however, over a Thanksgiving weekend, he decided to have a gaming marathon with the game, playing it for a handful of hours straight before dying. Autopsies revealed evidence of severe arthritis, early onset Alzheimer's, cataracts, and development of several tumors, with the conclusion that he had died of old age. I guess it's not a magical improvement anomaly after all. Moving on to something a little bit more old school, SCP-1315 is a gray cartridge to be used with a Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. The cartridge itself is unlabeled, but the accompanying manual indicates that the game is titled Professor Ghoul's Terrifying Horror Challenge, a realistic, high-stakes action game for 1 to 2 players. The manual reads, Professor Ghoul's Terrifying Horror Challenge is a realistic and scary action game that the entire family can enjoy. The manic Professor Ghoul invites all comers to test their mettle, wits, and strength in his fantastic challenge. Do you have what it takes to be victorious? Playing the game is easy. All you have to do is choose whether you want to go it alone or with a friend, and then do whatever it takes to survive level after level of horrifying action and adventure. Once you've started the game, you can play it anywhere. Home, in town, at school, wherever Professor Ghoul's spooky creations find you. The fun never ends. Be careful though, Professor Ghoul is a man of honor, and once you've decided to take on the challenge, you can't stop until someone emerges the victor. Manage to get through with all your body parts intact, and you'll be the coolest kid in town. Lose, however, and you're at the mercy of Professor Ghoul. There are no extra lives in Professor Ghoul's Terrifying Horror Challenge, and no second chances. Get game over, and you're done. When using the game with an NES, a black screen will appear with the options of 1 player or 2. Pressing either option will then bring up a prompt to confirm that the individuals currently holding controllers are those that wish to play the game. Pressing yes at this point will cause the game to beep loudly and display a blank red screen. The game has now begun, and the player or players will be subjected to a series of increasingly horrific challenges that will seemingly manifest in the physical world, but only for the players to see. The players will have to escape from or combat a series of hostile creatures across a number of levels, and it's unknown how many challenges must be completed to win the game, as no one the Foundation has tested it on has beaten it so far. The highest a D-Class has managed so far has been level 33. Once the game has commenced, it cannot be halted until either the players win or are defeated. Turning the NES off will simply make the players unable to receive hints from the game itself, and the challenges will proceed to follow the players wherever they go. As the challenges increase in difficulty, players are likely to become captured by the entities, at which point the game will end, and the players will disappear to an unknown location. We're given a test log of a playthrough, with a note telling us that different playthroughs tend to be rather similar, with only a slight element of randomness. The first level consists of a large number of spiders, rats, or various insects attempting to overwhelm the players. A large container of insecticide or rodent poison appears somewhere within the vicinity of the players, and the challenge is over once the vermin are all destroyed. The third level consists of a group of 2 to 6 wild animals, a combination of bears, wolves, and large cats, attempting to eat the players, and they have to survive for 1 hour. A shotgun and box of rounds appear in the vicinity, but using it to kill any of the animals will cause 2 more animals to appear within 5 minutes. In the 7th level, the player's location is assaulted by 1 or 2 hostile men armed with weapons ranging from machetes and axes to a chainsaw or even a firearm. The players must survive for 1 hour or kill the attackers, although they're given no weapons. In the 9th level, the players are pursued by 2 to 5 armed men, resembling a random group of authority or a local police force, with the intent of apprehending the players. They win the challenge if they resist capture for 2 hours, and a loaded firearm does appear within the vicinity, although using it to kill any attackers will cause them to call for backup. Level 12 has an unseen but hostile force attacking the player's location, capable of manipulating physical objects, including the player. 3 random objects, generally reported to be documents, photographs, or ornaments owned by a previous player, appear in the vicinity, and the level is won when the players find all of them and burn them. Level 16 has a group of 4 to 8 humanoids appear and create makeshift weapons before hunting down the players. Level 18 has an entity resembling another SCP, with a note that it's easier for 2 players to win this than a single player, suggesting that it's likely the statue. Level 20 consists of the players being tortured in a windowless room for 30 minutes. Level 23 involves the players being stranded in a dense forest and hunted by a number of unknown creatures until they reach a wooden shack a number of kilometers away. And level 27 involves the players being attacked by shadow entities in a rundown urban area. They are attacked if the players move too fast or make too much noise, and the players have to travel a number of kilometers to find a weapon that they can use to destroy the entities. Level 28 consists of a group of entities resembling people familiar to the players, appearing at their location, all subdued in a manner that they pose no danger. The players win by killing all of the entities with a supplied weapon, while the entities address the players personally and mention personal histories of the people they resemble. In level 29, the players perceive themselves to be on the top floor of an outer tower of a medieval-style castle that overlooks an expanse of forest, with a heavily armed and extremely hostile entity known as the Professor chasing them. The players have to find some keys hidden throughout the castle and then escape. In level 31, the players find themselves on a vast island containing the remains of an abandoned military complex, a small urban area, a network of underground tunnels, and patches of dense forest. The players are again pursued by the Professor entity, as well as 3 to 6 entities resembling the victims from level 28, all who move faster than the players and appear to communicate with telepathy. The player's goal is to survive for 24 hours, but at every third hour, 2 to 4 additional humanoids materialize within the zone. The players are not provided with any weapons, but can use whatever is at their disposal to stun or kill the pursuers. The last level reached by D-Class, level 33, has been expunged entirely. Continuing with the NES is SCP-4054, a platform adventure game titled The Seventh Door, released in 1988. The contents of each cartridge released vastly exceeds the storage limitations of its chip, and extracting its ROM produces a data file too large to be contained on any currently available device. 300 of the cartridges were produced, and since the game can't be copied, has limited replayability, and it's in an incomplete state, functional copies of the game are highly valued by NES collectors. The game is also notable for its unique method of bypassing the North American version of the NES lockout system. It does this by having 2 transistors on the cartridge that function as a voltage inverter, which produce a voltage spike that disables a circuit on the console and bypasses the lock. Later iterations of the NES included some modifications to prevent this bypass technique. A defect in this voltage inverter's design, however, causes irreparable damage to the cartridge's SRAM with each reset, producing an increasing number of glitches, inevitably resulting in the game becoming non-functional. On top of that, the game was also shipped in an incomplete state, resulting in a number of aspects of the game being missing or broken. The protagonist has no extra lives, so upon dying all progress is lost and the cartridge resets, which is a problem. All power-ups described in the manual are absent in the game except for one, the Hand of Glory, which prevents all monsters and platforms from moving for 10 seconds. As a side note, a Hand of Glory was said to be the dried and pickled hand of a hanged man, which, when used to hold a candle made of the man's fat, could render everyone who viewed it immobile. All monsters in the game are missing, and falling into a pit doesn't kill the player, instead causing them to continue to fall off screen as the game over sound loops. While in most games this would make it rather difficult to actually die, the protagonist in The Seventh Door dies at apparently random intervals, typically after a period of remaining still, regardless of whether or not the game is paused. Memory overflow errors periodically cause sprites to load incorrectly, and the prisoners in the game use the protagonist's sprite rather than their own. After unlocking a door, prisoners provide no clues regarding the location of other keys, as the text boxes are empty. Despite the manual claiming that the 7th level is the final one, researchers have uncovered several hundred levels more, consisting of vast networks of crypts, prisons, abandoned factories, and empty underground cities. This seems to be the reason why the game's file is so large, and the total number of levels is unknown. The 7th level also does not contain the 7th key, meaning that the game has yet to be beaten. So far, it's not absurdly anomalous, but in 2004, an amateur NES collector named Charles Rogers posted a thread on the now defunct online forum openingthe7thdoor.int under the username Inky49. He suggested using an NES Game Genie cheating device to directly set the protagonist's number of keys to 7. Several days later, he posted a link to a stream where he intended to beat the game using this exploit. Partway through the run, however, the video abruptly stopped, and a follow-up investigation determined that he had gone missing. The copy of The Seventh Door was missing from his console, and several fingernails torn from his left hand were found inside of the console. To date, it has been linked to 25 disappearances, and remains under investigation. That was definitely more of the classic creepypasta style of articles, so let's move on to something a bit more modern and a bit more controversial. SCP-5167 is an entity known to manifest as a player in the online multiplayer game Among Us, under the username of Thonus. The entity will randomly join multiplayer lobbies and participate as a normal player, although the majority of its speech using the in-game chat consists of lengthy diatribes. Individuals who interact with the entity in-game will begin to exhibit symptoms of paranoia and Capgras delusion, a disorder in which they come to believe that those around them have been replaced with identical imposters. The severity of these symptoms varies from person to person, but it has been significant enough to prompt acts of self-defense, up to and including homicide. These symptoms were originally believed to last for several months, but have lessened to 1 or 2 weeks as observation has continued. The player Thonus was a minor urban legend in the Among Us community, leading the Foundation to investigate and discover a number of accounts of player encounters with the entity. The Foundation tasked one of their learning computers with tracking sessions of the game until the entity was encountered, with the players in said session beginning to exhibit the symptoms associated with 5167. So far, they've been unable to track down the user behind the entity, however, with all attempts to locate the access point used just leading to deserted addresses in rural Greece. An intelligence director leaves a note saying that when they first discovered the entity, the impact it had on its victims was severe, with one player mutilating his family's faces. Almost immediately after discovery, however, and since then, the potency of its effects have started to decline. Full detachment from reality became delusion, and delusion became paranoia, which is lessening with each new case. Based on their observations, Thonus's effects will become inert before long, although they don't know if it will continue to pop up in matches or not. During one of these appearances, a player asks Thonis where they were when the others were doing reactor. Thonis replies that he was there when the mountains were newborn and the oceans virginal. He was there when gods walked among men and their wisdom was cast down like sunlight. He was there when mankind was capable of legends, and now he finds himself in a world that has forgotten even the taste of life, even the very concept of life beyond existing from one day to the next, where all the world is wasted away in idle play of emotions that once rang true. He is in a world where even the gods are forgotten, their bones washed away by time, a world where man has moved on, and all the legacy he has left are 3 sentences on Wikipedia. He thought his time had come again, and this could be the new him, but this is nothing, and he wants to stay dead this time. Chat is silent for 12 seconds before someone else comments that red is sus. For some context, Thonis was the Greek personification of jealousy and envy, generally in matters of romance. It seems that Thonis was awoken in the modern day and has been attempting to use Among Us to breed paranoia and delusions, but has just become more and more disillusioned with the modern world, slowly fading away once more. As I said, it's a fairly contentious article due to being based around a very modern, fad game. So let's finish with one based around a much more classic game, Quake. SCP-2639 is a phenomenon that manifests as a 1-kilometer cubic volume wherein anomalous entities and objects materialize, then dematerialize around 1 to 2 hours later. An imperceptible barrier around this area prevents the entities from leaving during this time. The entities are 3 humanoids, equipped with anomalous weaponry and armor, each one exhibiting superhuman speed, strength, endurance, resistance to injury, and perceives no pain or discomfort. When any of the entities are destroyed, an undamaged copy will appear shortly after, somewhere within the vicinity. The objects that materialize in the area are intangible, each hovering slightly above the ground and rotating on a horizontal axis. When the entities make contact with these objects, the objects typically disappears and confers a beneficial effect to the entity, including new anomalous weaponry, increased resistance to injury, and higher overall damage output. One particular type of object, known as an ammo pack, only appears when one of the entities or a non-anomalous human expires. Along with this effect is a customized desktop computer running without a discernible power source, which has been hosting a heavily modified Quake deathmatch game since 1997. The session has 3 participants connected to it through anomalous means, and they have been identified as 3 teenagers that have been missing since June 18, 1997. The Foundation didn't discover the computer until 2010, but the phenomenon had been popping up all over the world, causing havoc and dematerializing without a trace. In 2009, the effect manifested in Tuscany, centered on a small church on the outskirts of a town. Local police officers responded, leading to a conflict that culminated with the collapse.
Okay, I've been at this for just about 2 hours now. So I think I'm just gonna end the stream here. If you wanna listen to more of that, sorry, I'm like tired. If you wanna listen to more of that, it's oh, I don't know. I just linked the damn video. It was video game SCPs, which are, I don't know, I guess kind of cool. But yeah, that guy's channel's got, yeah, I think I linked it, but he's got loads of those things, man. He's got like 200 videos just on that one series alone, so there's bound to be something that you might like. I don't know, I mean, I don't know you, I don't know what your interests are, but I don't know, it's just something cool to listen to. So I pretty much accomplished a little bit more than I set out to do, so I'll just go over it briefly. So, I mean, not that you care. I imagine you probably don't, but I'm gonna work on these visualizers some other time, the little health bars. I got all my titles nice and neat and tidy. All these titles now work, so just to demonstrate that, I will start from the beginning. So yeah, let me just turn off that. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna name them all. You can just read them. 4, 5. They're all relatively the same. Yeah, as you can see, like they're all pretty much the same size, except maybe a few of them. But I'll tweak them later. I don't really have the yeah, like that needs to be. I say I'm gonna do it later, and I'll do it like right now. You get what I mean? Like, I just want to line it up just so it's... Maybe I'll line up the numbers. I don't know. I'll figure something out. So then we look at... Yeah, so now I gotta... This is my problem with this stupid project. It's like I just can't stop, like, working on it. I can't stop, like, tweaking and trying to fix things on it, but... And then there's the last one. So, yeah, like I'm saying is, I pretty much got that whole sprite sheet down. There were some extra bosses in there or people that I've never actually seen before. I have no idea who these guys are. Like, guy with a mohawk, guy with like green hair. I have no idea. I don't know that much about Megaman. Okay, so I got the characters that I wanted to get. So next time I work on this, I'll go through and fix up their proportions and scale them proper. So I kind of want them just give me a sec. Oh, just easier to do this. Okay, yeah, so what I'm saying is I basically want all the bosses to be the exact same size, like in terms of filling up the screen, so there we go. So yeah, I mean maybe he needs to be shaped, I don't know, resized a little bit or something like that, but for the most part I'm pretty satisfied with what I have right now. But yeah, it's quite a boring stream. Like, it's technical work. I mean, from what I'm trying to do here, there's no way around it. I mean, I've heard that you can use something called a texture atlas where you just like have these coordinates moving around all the time, but as you can see, these guys all have like different proportions and different sizes, so it'd be kind of awkward to just have them like you see how tiny he is. So I don't know, it was painstakingly boring, but I pretty much finished it up. So I just got to clean up this guy. Got to figure something out with that, and I think there is 2 more games. 9 and 10 I'm missing, so that's 1 through 8 plus I don't know, Megaman and Bass, and then 2 more. I just said them, 9 and 10. I don't know what I'm gonna do for 9 and 10 because I can't really find good pixel art portraits like this, but I'm thinking I might just use their stock concept art photos and then apply like a pixelated filter to it. I'll figure something out. I'm not really feeling it right now and I don't really want to think about it, so I'll do that when the time comes. Otherwise, I think there's not much left to do on this visualizer. I mean, like, there still is, but just like the classic series alone, which, like, so what I'm trying to do with this is like I want to build a foundation I can work off of. So I first have the classic series, which is probably the biggest one, the most work, and similar. So let's say I do the X series, it'll be like the same idea. I'll have like the the X logo in there. I'll have like the different boss names, the different boss. Again, I might not be able to find detailed pixel art like this. Maybe it'll just be like from the game and like scale it up or something. Again, I'll figure it out. And my goal is to do, if I'm doing the X series, then I got to do like an X styled helmet, and that'll be kind of fun. It's been a while since I've actually modeled anything, to be honest. I've been caught up on all this I've just been caught up on all this visualizer stuff, so, like stuff like that, and you know, I don't know. I'm just ruining it at this point. It doesn't look good that way. But yeah, I got nothing else to say. I don't know. Just if you have questions, feel free to ask me, and I don't know. I feel good about this, to be honest. Like a huge chunk of the work is done now, and my wrist hurts. So yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else to say. I'm gonna end it here. I already linked the Exploring Series guys channel if you want to listen to those spooky stories. And next stream will probably be focused on music. I think I do need, like, I really, after today, I think I really do need a break from all the not the music, from all the 3D stuff. Like, I think I need a break from like Mega Man in general. Like, holy shit, I've been working at this for like months now. Nothing but this Mega Man stuff, and I'm hopeful that, like, I just need a little bit of a break, right? I just need to focus on like more of my stuff again, and I don't know, do originals or do something like ambient, or I don't know why I played that. Just do something else, right? I need to do something else away from Mega Man and away from all this stuff. But I do like streaming, so I think, I'll just turn on the stream and work away at, and, chit chat with people. But I don't know, I really wanted to just keep pushing at this project, but I realized, like, it's just weighing me down now. It's like it's pushing back, right? And I'm like, I'm not that strong, so yeah, I think I'm just gonna take a break from all this. Let's see what happens. Maybe tomorrow I'm like refreshed completely, and I just want to get right back to it. But I don't know. I just take this a day at a time, and see what happens. Honestly, I mean, I'm pretty happy with what's been happening so far. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I just keep repeating myself. Like, yeah, it's technical. It's a great learning experience. But if I had to do this again from scratch, which I hope to God I would never have to do, I would probably be able to do it a lot quicker than what I did in the last few months. Like, now that I know what I'm doing, now that I have like, now I understand like the power of sketching out little drafts and like coming up with little doodles of like, like, oh, okay, the health bar should be here, and put the title like right dead in the center at the top, and yeah, I don't know. There's still quite a bit of work to do on this, but I think I'm at a really good spot to just take a break now, because I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this stuff's been like, it started out as really really fun, then it kind of died from there. It kind of just became work, but that's okay. Like I said earlier, it's just because I've been so into this series and all this stuff. I don't know. Okay, look, I'm just hopeful it'll pay off in the end. That I'll be able to make like a fun little visualizer, like I don't know, a 3-hour video. Like, the whole point of this actually was because I didn't do a year mix. Like, like last year, I moved out, got a new job and all that. Became really busy adapting to everything, right? So I didn't really have the energy or the drive to do like music and come up with my own stuff, like, the original compositions. But yeah, working on this project, doing nothing but these remixes for like the last 3 months is really, I don't know, like I was saying, like, it's been a nice break from all that. So I kind of feel like I want to move back into doing original stuff, and just for a little bit. I mean, I'll probably get bored of that too. I'll probably get a little bit annoyed of it, but I don't know. I just want to kind of bounce back and forth between music and this 3D stuff, or Mega Man, and like, hopefully, you know what I think, like, after like this project's done, I think I'll just take a break from like Mega Man in general. It's too much. But yeah, my goal is to just back and forth, just try and learn a little bit more and try to improve my skills a little bit more each time I work away at these things. But I don't know. Would I recommend you ever do this? Probably not, but I do intend to just make a quick video about it, and I don't know, throw in a bunch of tips and tricks and I don't know what to do, what not to do, and how to organize your assets so it's easier to go through, so it's not so like convoluted and like just scrambling around looking for stuff. So it's quite a bit I could talk about, to be honest. Like this actually is quite a bit of work. It's actually a lot more work than I initially expected, but I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not complaining, even though I really do sound like I am really complaining non-stop. But no, I don't know. I'm quite happy with what's going on and what's been happening. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll probably just do a music stream, and it might not even be Megaman related. I might just like look. You know what? Let's do it right now. Let's. It doesn't even show up because I closed it. Let's just quickly make something, right? Let's just try and, I don't know, we'll come up with something. And I know this isn't, like, I know I said I was going to end this stream, and I will. I don't know, let's just see what we can come up with, like, in, like, 5 minutes or something like that, right? Just real quick. Let's just come up with something. Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, I want to do stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, that was horrible. Like, that was just weird. But I'm kind of missing that. I'm kind of missing just zoning out and making weird beats and sounds and just coming up with stuff, right? I kind of miss making my own music. I just call it, I don't know, HH2. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end the stream here. I don't know, it got kind of weird at the end. I kind of just started making music, bad music, but yep. Okay, I hit the wrong button. I'm going to, I don't know. I'm just gonna end it here. Like I've already said what I wanted to say. I'm just going like in like circles. So I don't know if you watch this to the end. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And let's see what happens. Let's see how much more I can take. I'm working on this. I don't know. I'm hopeful I'll be able to finish it, but given the scope of it, it's gonna take some time. And honestly, I feel like my progress has been kind of slow. But I guess that's just because of this thing, right? It just took so long to figure out and to research and to, I don't know, just converting all these things and a bunch of technical nonsense that it's gonna bore you. So I won't go into detail, and I'm really tired now. So yeah, I'm just gonna end it here. I don't know. I feel like I should have like a catchphrase or like something exciting to go out on, or promote like Discord or some crap like that. But honestly, I'm just gonna end it. I'm tired. So yeah, I'm just gonna mute it.